The elegant Bellingrath home, completed in 1936, embodies its owner's vision, a grand estate house that blends seamlessly into the beautiful setting of Bellingrath Gardens. But the gardens came first. In 1917, Mobile's first Coca-Cola bottler, Walter Bellingrath, purchased an old fishing camp on Fowl River for use as a summer retreat. His wife Bessie, an avid gardener, enhanced the property, known as Bell Camp, with azaleas, camellias, and other flowering plants. In 1927, the Bellingraths, inspired by the estate gardens they saw on a trip to Europe, hired architect George B. Rogers to transform the camp into a lavish garden over 65 acres. As the gardens were developed, their reputation grew as well. On April 7, 1932, the Bellingraths invited the public to visit the gardens, and an estimated 4,700 arrived, creating one of the county's worst traffic jams. Amazed by the response, the Bellingraths decided to open the gardens from January to May, charging a 50-cent admission. However, this plan wasn't feasible. Although closed to the public signs were affixed to highway signs in May, the crowds ignored them. In 1934, the Bellingraths announced that the gardens would be open year-round. They also decided to spend more time on Fowl River and less time at their home in Mobile. At the time, most roads were unpaved, so a trip to the gardens for Mobile was an all-day affair. The Bellingraths and their guests had been staying in 2 cabins that remained from the original fishing camp. In 1934, the couple hired the garden's architect, George Rogers, to create a permanent home. Rogers, a well-known architect along the Gulf Coast, set about designing a modern house with a classic historic feel. As plans for the home took shape, Rogers and Mr. Bellingrath were both adamant that as many trees as possible should be preserved during construction. The east facade of the Bellingrath home was constructed against a mature oak tree, giving the impression that a sapling had grown up beside the house. Large trees were left in place on the east terrace to give it shade and a look of maturity. But it was not just trees that would give the new home a look of age. Recycled bricks, cast iron, and paving stones enhanced the exterior, which Rogers described as a mingling of French, English, and Mediterranean influences. Most of the bricks at Bellingrath were salvaged from an unusual house at 201 Government Street in Mobile, designed in 1852 by cotton broker Murray Forbes Smith. By the mid-1930s, Mobile's Government Street had become commercialized, and the home was demolished. Rogers had stacks of the handmade bricks carted down to Bellingrath Gardens to construct the 10,500-square-foot home. A distinct architectural element along the Gulf Coast was iron lace, or cast iron, which was often made in Philadelphia and shipped south in the 1850s to adorn new and existing buildings. Rogers incorporated cast iron into the Bellingrath home. In 1934, Sears Roebuck announced plans to demolish Mobile's Southern Hotel, built in 1837. The corner building of the hotel was surrounded by cast iron galleries, which were carefully removed and brought to Bellingrath Gardens before the wreckers arrived. The ironwork was reassembled onto the new Bellingrath home to create galleries, balconies, and railings on the porches and corridors. The cast iron columns from the Southern Hotel were placed on the northeast corner of the home, surrounding its dining porch. The central courtyard and colonnade are paved with flagstones that once surrounded the southwest corner of Government and Claiborne Streets in Mobile. The pavers had come from England as ballast for ships in the first half of the 19th century. The Bellingraths paid for their removal and replacement with concrete, to the delight of Mobile city officials. Rogers added a Mediterranean element with a central courtyard, fountain, and pool. The fountain has colorful faience tiles, produced by the Rookwood Company of Cincinnati, Ohio. Centered in the wall is a figure of a boy astride a spouting dolphin, which can be found in Rookwood's catalog as early as 1912. Rogers, an avowed Anglophile, also wanted the home to reflect aspects of an English country house. A small but very British detail is the use of lead drain heads atop downspouts. The Bellingrath downspouts are all topped with monogrammed drain heads, dated 1935. Materials within the home were selected for their durability as well as their look of age. The center work table in the kitchen was topped with honed slabs of Alabama marble, quarried in Sylacauga. Walter Bellingrath's name is synonymous with Coca-Cola, but he had other business interests in Mobile, including the National Mosaic Tile Company, which produced adamant tile, known as a high-grade cement flooring tile. Rogers used adamant tile throughout the floors of the kitchen areas and porches on the first floor. The kitchen has a cream-colored tile bordered with a classic black Greek key pattern. The dining porch has a bold mosaic pattern. The home was completed in 1936, and in 1956, according to Mr. Bellingrath's wishes, the house was formally opened to the public. Filled with Mrs. Bellingrath's beautiful collections and antique furnishings, the home is maintained to look as it did when the couple used it. The Bellingrath's vision, realized by Rogers' expert blending of old and new architectural styles, resulted in an elegant home that continues to welcome visitors today. It's a fitting memorial to its owners, who enjoyed sharing their beautiful garden retreat with the world.